everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen, and I'm going to show you today how I took this lovely unicorn cake I made and turned it into this Halloween Frankenstein unicorn cake just for fun. So here I made this lovely unicorn cake for reasons, and it turned out the cake was not needed for anything after all. So I decided to give it a makeover. So I'm taking off the gum paste ears that I made, carefully removing the gum paste horn that I made, and I'm going to show you how I do this wonderful transformation to give my pretty unicorn a Halloween makeover. So I'm just going to put the ears and the horn to the side for now. I'm just putting them on a paper towel because they're a little messy. Get them out of the way. And now I'm going to scrape off a lot of that pretty icing I put on there, all those different colors and everything, going in my garbage bowl. So I'm just using my flat-edged spatula and I'm just lifting up and snapping kind of it away. It is a crusting buttercream icing, which is why it's kind of clumping and lifting in big chunks. It's not all soft and squishy. If you guys ever find you have to scrape icing off of a cake yourself, I do a neater job than I'm doing, but the idea is you want to like lift from the clean edge of the icing and then into the dirty so you don't smear that dirty stuff any further down your clean fondant. I'm using my knife to cut through the fondant. Speaking of fondant, not going into the cake as much as I can avoid. I'm tracing around the buttercream little rosettes and things that I left behind, and I'm just going to start cutting away sections now. I didn't want to lift it all off in one piece. I wanted to break it up to make it a little more controlled, a little more easy. And it was actually kind of fun to do this, I'm not going to lie, just to take little sections out. Felt like I was operating or something. I am carefully removing my one eye. I'm going to hang on to that just for measurement's sake. Kind of scalping my little unicorn there. And as you can see, I went across the face, so I'm leaving part of the mane intact, the original mane. I'm leaving part of the face intact, and it'll have a nice, dramatic look when it's all said and done. Scraping off that little bit of decorative icing border I had on there. I have a paper towel, clean it up, make it all nicer and tidier. Okay, so that's what I'm left with. Yeah, all right. I am now going to kind of map out the green fondant that I'm going to put onto my cake in order to give it more of the Frankenstein look. Okay, so I'm using a piece of parchment paper that I cut to the same, not the same height, obviously, of the cake, but it's pretty darn close. And I'm just wrapping it around and mapping off the edges where I cut, so the fondant edges. And like I said, fortunately, it is a crusting buttercream, so even though I'm touching some of the rosettes and stars and stuff, they're not getting damaged. I'm going to use this like I said, when I roll out the green fondant to try to get a better idea of where I'm at with everything. I have a second piece that I'm mapping out the top, and I'm feeling, terribly clever with all this. But I kind of realized it's hard because I didn't cut it nice and straight. I made it all wiggly. And I realized too, the fondant's going to move when I lift it. It always stretches a little bit, it's not perfectly true for me. But I'm going to try, give it a shot, right? So I wiped off that extra icing that came off of the cake and stuck to it. Using some scissors, just trimming it all out to get my proper templates going. And then I'm going to roll out my green fondant. I just put some Crisco down on my counter in order to roll on top of. I know some people do cornstarch or powdered sugar. I like to use Crisco. I feel like it doesn't dry it out, it doesn't stick, and any shine that ends up on your fondant, it absorbs in or evaporates or something. It goes away. So it's just what I prefer to use. I have my top template that I carved out, just that top curve part, not the horseshoe part at the bottom. I'm matching up the bottom piece to the sides, and now I'm going to give it plenty of room on the bottom all the way around. So that way, it's plenty wide enough. I'll have a little bit extra because you don't want to short yourself when you're fondanting a cake. So yes, now I'm going to very carefully attach it in the front corner first. I want it to look the best in the front, of course, so that's where I'm going to put all my time and attention. Putting it on, smoothing it out, and like I mentioned before, of course it stretched a little bit, so it's not lining up as perfectly on top of the cake as I would have liked, but it's okay. Even though it's, as you can see, a little bit of an overhang that I have to carve away, it's not a big deal if it doesn't match up perfectly on the top because I'm going to cover it with the purple hair anyway. I'm matching it up in the back. along that other seam that I made there. And the rest is just normal covering a cake with fondant, just trying to smooth out the wrinkles, trying to avoid the big folds, cutting off the little bits of extra that stick out. And you can see too up top there that it doesn't quite match up or meet up with the old fondant. I got a little bit of a gap, but again, like I already said too, it's not even going to show, so I'm not worried about it. I'm just going to smooth down my sides, and when I have it all nice and smooth, I'm going to cut off the extra. And looking back on it now, I wish I had done a little bit of a neater job. I kind of cut off too much there on the back, but it's okay. I'm still going to add a little border to it, so it won't even matter. I'm just going to smooth it out, clean it up a little bit, make sure the seams are as good as I can get them, because that's really where it's going to count. And then I'm going to move on. All right, now I'm going to do the Frankenstein eye. The first eye, you can see it up there, just that closed, quintessential, stereotypical unicorn eyelash thing. I am using that just to gauge the size. So as long as it looks proper on the eye I'm making, then I'll know it's going to fit nicely and it won't look weird or anything. So I have a white circle of gum paste that I'm using here. Cut out a pink circle and put that in the center there. Cut out another circle here. Actually, it's not even a whole circle. I just cut out a little crescent, and this is going to be a different type of eyelash too. I wanted to have eyelashes, but I wanted them to be different and starkly different. So I have the crescent that you see, and I'm using the tip of a star to cut little wedges out to make kind of like fake eyelashes look. So yeah, like that on top. And then fill in a little black circle there, the hole that I left in the pink, to make the pupil. I'm using a little bit of water on my paintbrush on the back of my eye to put it into place to make it stick. Got to smooth out that little dent I put in it. And yeah, you can see even though it's a very different eye because they, the sizes of the eyelashes are the same, it's not a far stretch to think that that could be the size if it was open. Okay, this is just another piece of black gum paste that I rolled out long and thin, and I cut kind of into a messy rectangle, which is fine. And I just made chops into little tiny rectangles to make stitches. And these are the threads for my stitches that I'm going to put up the front of the face and then down the back part where the seam is going to show in the back as well. So I'm using a little bit of water on my fondant so it can stick. And I just start sticking, and yes, my cake stand is so wobbly. I can't stand it. I thought it was so cool. I liked it. It was black and it was kind of cool looking. Yeah, darn thing is cheap. What can I say? So I stuck all my stitches on. It has a pretty cool effect. I go to the back. The mane is going to cover a lot of it again. So again, not too worried about going crazy on the back, but I still want it to look good. So I had a few on the back and then call it good once again. All right, our next step is going to be making the bolts for my Frankencorn's neck. And I am taking gray gum paste, just some gray gum paste. I rolled it out to it was actually pretty thick, and just cut out a couple of circles. Roll it out a little bit thinner this time, and I'm going to cut out 2 larger circles, and those are going to be the bolts that sit on the nuts. So I have the circles, but I'm going to cut wedges out. So I'm going to cut 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have octagons, like little stop signs. And the first one, I just kind of winged it. I wasn't measuring or anything. I was just kind of hoping it would work. But this one, I did opposite sides. So I did the right and left, turn it, do the opposite sides again, and then just do those little angles in between. It was not difficult to do the first one, but I will say this just seemed easier. So I kind of recommend you do it this way for both of them. It's always one of those things that the more you do it, the more you discover the little shortcuts that save you a little effort. I'm going to take that original shape circle for the nut part, make a couple impressions in the bolts so it looks like it's, screwed on proper. And now I'm taking a lollipop stick that I broke in half, so these are about 4 inches long each. Put a little bit of water on, and now I'm pushing it into the bolt part, but it's not going all the way through, so the lollipop stick won't come through the other side. I just want it to sit in it. And the water that I put on the nut part will press against the back of the bolt and hold it all in place. Okay, put those aside, let those set up for a while. Now I am cleaning up my unicorn horn, just scraping off some of that extra icing because I do not want it. I have a wet paper towel here, a piece of paper towel, and I'm just kind of giving a little wipe down, getting all the icing off of the stick. It's just a wooden dowel that I was using. And also, if you're interested in making this unicorn, without being all Frankenstein-y, I have several unicorn tutorials out there. Um, they're one is with buttercream icing, one is with fondant, but I will add the link so you can take a look and see if you need any help with them there. Okay, I cut off the top part of the horn. I cut it at an angle, and now I'm using that same gray as before. This is gum paste to match it up and then finish the horn so it'll look like, two different unicorn horns spliced together, being all Frankenstein-y again. I'm rolling it out so it's very tapered, and once I hold it up and kind of get an idea of the thickness, like that was too thick, so I'm cutting it at an angle, add a little bit of water, and so when I push it on with the gold, it matched up really nicely, so I knew I had it. If you find it's too fat, still, if you decide, if you were to do something like this, then just keep trimming it off till you get the right thickness, and then you're there. Yeah, so when it all comes together, a little bit of water to hold it in place, and it'll connect right back together. Now, since my unicorn horn is shiny gold, I wanted to make the rest of it a shiny silver, so I'm wrapping it in a piece of paper towel. I'm using my fingernails to press the edge of the paper towel into the crease between the two because this spray stuff it bleeds a little if you're not careful. So I'm spraying silver the unicorn horn, spraying silver my nut and bolt, making sure to try to get it on the sides of my nut and bolt because that will be very visible. It's not just going to be on the outside. Get my hand a little bit in the process. Now I'm shiny. Give that a moment to set, and it looks cool, right? Like, there you go. I was really happy with it. Okay, this is my one ear that I'm going to end up repairing or Frankensteining. The other one, since it's going to sit on the part of the unicorn cake's head that has been left unaltered, I'm going to leave alone. So now I'm taking some black gum paste. This is still gum paste, not fondant. You could use fondant as long as you add a little Tylose powder to it. But I'm taking that, cutting a piece of the ear off, and using that as just a template in order to cut out the black that I need to make the patch for the ear. And then once I'm happy with the shape, it did need a little bit of tweaking. It was a little bit too fat there, you can kind of see. So yes, you don't want a fat ear and a skinny ear. You still want it to match up. So yeah, when you put it together, it's going to look good. Add a little bit of water, press them together, and what I did was, since the ear was curved, it was gum paste that had hardened into a curve. I am going to prop it on a piece of paper towel that I roll it up in order to hold the shape nicer. Okay, now that I have that propped and set, I took the gold off of the piece of the ear that I cut off, and I rolled out some just hot pink that I happen to have because it matched the eye, so why not, right? A little color never hurts anybody. So I cut out the piece to match the gold, put it on there, see how it matches up, very nice, very nice. And now just let the ears set and dry. Just put it back on the paper towel, let it dry. Alright, I'm making some more stitches now. These are a lot smaller than the original ones, which is why I'm not using them. These are going to go on the ear and the horn, so I didn't want big giant ones. That would be too obtrusive. So I put a whole bunch of small ones. I used a little bit of water, just, more water, so I didn't really show you. But it was kind of boring. But I put a little bit of water on them and then just stuck them into place. I'm doing the same thing with the unicorn horn. The silver had time to set, so I just stuck it around it. Okay, back to the cake. Now it's time to start piping my Frankencorn's new hair. I went with a purple just because very Halloween-y. I figured it was nice and colorful too. And it also kind of goes with the purple that's still left over from the rainbow mane that she's still sporting. And I'm using just a big star tip, and I'm just, as you can see, putting raggedy jags of icing, just pulling straight up, kind of making a mess of it, kind of making it spiky a little crazier. I did a little time jump there because I was just filling it in. And that edge, that's what I'm filling in right there. That seam where it was a little bit of a gap, it's all filled in now. Time to put my ears back on. So there's my Franken ear and my nice ear. Here comes my Franken horn going on my little cake. And yeah, looks good, right? We're not done yet though. Oh, no. We got to finish the bottom, yes. I wanted to finish piping nice little stars around the bottom edge all the way around. You can kind of see in the back there, the fondant really was a little bit too high when I trimmed it off. Yeah. So I'm just going to use some of that buttercream to fill in the gap a little bit. And also completes the look, right? Looks pretty good. Let's add our final touch now, as soon as I can try to get it into focus for you. Okay, my bolts have had a little time to set. I'm sticking one on each side. They're not perfectly on the side. I wanted them to be a little bit more forward, just so you could kind of see them a bit more. But there you go. You got a Frankencorn cake. It was a lot of fun to make. It was a just because, but I had fun doing it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe because it really does help me out as well. I've got a lot of other videos out there, including the other unicorn cakes, so take a look if you want. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.